Hello beautiful people, welcome back. In several videos relating to terrorist stop standards, tests and elements, as a loophole to probable cause in the Fourth Amendment, and other doctrines, and things relating to public courts, it was casually mentioned that whenever anyone writes you a traffic ticket, that they're effectively suing you. And it seems there are a few who don't quite get it. And reasonably, the question comes up that, how so? Well, I'm going to show you how so here. Because in those videos, what I'm about to show here and is just a small part that relates to those bigger picture in those videos. But this specific one is dedicated to the subject matter of the fact that whenever anyone writes you a traffic ticket, it is as synonymous as a summons and a complaint. And to those who are genuinely curious, this will answer it. To those who are under the impression that, don't show up for traffic cases, it is partly on that other end of the spectrum. It is partly because they don't comprehend that they are being sued. When I say you have to show up and kick their ass, rather than just ignoring it, or trying to bring up some speculation that, oh well, if you don't show up, that means you're not giving them jurisdiction yet. When it comes to territorial jurisdiction, which they have on their record, they're saying you're the illegal because some residence is in a state of so-and-so, to which they purport to enforce the state common law. That gives you even more right and more obligation to say, I'm going to show up to remove that supposition, because the presumption is what they're standing on. And if you don't speak up against it, then it's as though it does actually exist. Even more reason for you to actually show up. But putting that to the side and going to the first spectrum of thoughts of people who are actually sincerely want to figure out how a traffic ticket is equivalent to you being sued. Well, here it is. At Illinois, for instance. And no, there's no excuse for anyone to say, oh, well, it's only at one state. It is uniformly the same way in all states. That's why it's called, quote, common law. But let's not be delusional with each other just because the example of one state has been shown. And in the process of trying to, quote, be free, aka the liberty from permission, and in the process of trying to enforce a given right, aka assert the natural essence of what you are, we must be truthful to ourselves. And part of that truth is realizing that tortfeasors work based on fixed box of certain algorithms, whereby if it's one way here, we do the same in the other. They might call it something different, but even the form might be different. But nonetheless, the foundational principle that they function on is the exact same thing. They're the exact same thing, taking shape in different form. No different than you and I are the same thing, same, quote, consciousness, observing itself from different perspective. But let's be truthful to ourselves and come to the realization of the fact that what I'm about to show, despite it being an example in Illinois, it is not isolated to any other given state, because the principles are exactly the same. Approved standardized statewide forms, meaning these are statewide forms issued by the Supreme Court of Illinois. And their motto is audi alteram partem, hear the other side. In other words, due process. The Supreme Court Commission on Access to Justice has approved the following form, meaning there's a subsidiary entity under the Supreme Court, in which case the Supreme Court is the only court in any given state or the federal level that has the true judicial power, aka the final determination when it comes to the interpretation of legislative language. If you say that you're private, the moment you step out there and you're interfacing with the world around you, whereby your activity intermingles with others or in any way relate to others, then that privacy one is claiming goes by the wayside. And the only thing you have to now focus on is the Constitution, because the ones who will try to put it by the wayside are so-called governmental entities to which the Constitution is created to restrict them. So now you have no choice but to know constitutional principle when you're out there, even if you say you're private, because that's the only thing that ties you back to that thing that you intend to claim, which is privacy, called the Constitution. And there are subsidiaries within the organization of government, in this case, the Judicial Department, called the Supreme Court, and subsidiary of it is called the Commission on Access to Justice. They have approved the following forms. The Illinois courts must accept these forms. All Illinois courts must accept these forms, meaning what we're about to show is a form, a standardized statewide form in regards to county, borough, city, whatever it is, municipality. They all use this form because it's a court form established by the Supreme Court. specifically the subsidiary of it that deals with access to it by creating certain forms, aka format. No different than the IRS, whereby certain IRS codes actually govern the language and the boxes of each things that you're ticking and writing in those tax forms. No different than any of the things that you're filling out, any form. There's always a specific language and a specific body that creates it that says these forms are to be accepted and used this way. In the case of any form that you fill out when it comes to courts, there's always a subsidiary body attached to the highest court in any given state, and this is the example of it, that creates those forms that people fill out. Whether it's the informal paupers, whether it's the form for the complaint, whether it's the summons, whether it's the form for child support, whether it's the form for answer and response, all these things, there's always a body in any given state that creates these forms. And one of these forms is the forms that police employees of municipalities basically tear out, whereby it has a color red. In some cases it's pink and yellow and white. They tear it out and they write it to you. It looks ever so casual, but the moment they do that, they have sued you. And here's an evidence of that. The Supreme Court Commission on Access to Justice has approved the following forms. All Illinois courts must accept these forms. One of those forms are all Illinois courts must accept. All of them is one of those tickets that they write you, which is an evidence of you being sued because it's a court form. Here it is. It says scroll down below the chart for important information on how to fill out these forms, blah, blah, blah. The one we're looking for here is this thing they call citation. To the left, it says Uniform Citation Form. When you click it, it takes you to a web page that says Supreme Court Rule 552 directs uniform citation and complaint forms. This uniform citation and complaint forms. Uniform citation and complaint form. Whenever anything is initiated at law, they call it complaint. And there's a form for it. They loosely refer to it as Uniform Citation and Complaint Form. And it is directed according to the Supreme Court Rule. The Supreme Court Rule 552 directs uniform citation and complaint forms and conservation complaint forms be approved by Conference of Chief Circuit Judge. The conference has placed 7 citation forms in corresponding printed instrument, 4 paper forms and 3 electronic forms, on file with Illinois Supreme Court Clerk as required under the rule. A 5-stamp copy of each form is available below. All local law enforcement agencies, except Cook County, and state law enforcement agencies are required to satisfy the requirement of the most recent version of the printed instruction. Meaning Cook County, which is, by the way, is the largest county in the Midwest, does not necessarily have to use the most recent version, but nonetheless, they still use it. All local law enforcement agencies, except Cook County and state law enforcement agencies, are required to satisfy the requirement of the most recent version of the printed instructions and uniform citation forms placed on file with Supreme Court Clerk before use. So it has been established now, clearly from the horse's mouth, that uniform citation forms is also a complaint form, aka and complaint forms. And it's directed to be created by the Supreme Court. Now let's look at what it looks like. You click on the form when it comes to uniform citation and complaint. It shows you the memorandum according to the Supreme Court Chief Judge that held a conference establishing and approving it. March 19, 2019, they put their seal. They put the conference, aka the meeting whereby they adjourned and came to such a conclusion. Administrative Office of the Illinois Courts, meaning this is an office that oversees every other courts, municipal or not, at Illinois. The Conference of Chief Circuit Judge at its meeting March 15, 2019 approved changes to the uniform citation and complaint forms. Another name for it, they put it in parentheses, uniform traffic ticket. Another name for uniform citation and complaint form is called uniform traffic ticket. The layman term people know this as is traffic ticket. Again, whenever a traffic ticket is issued, they are suing you. It is a complaint form. Approved by the Supreme Court of any given state. This is just one example. The approved updates are part of the comprehensive, systematic, and procedural change, meaning procedural due process. Procedural changes resulting from the enactment of the Criminal and Traffic Assessment Act, meaning now they're tying into some legislative language. And recent updates Coordinating the Article 5 Supreme Court rule with the Act. Appendixes A, B, C of the printed instruction have also been updated, including the following blah, 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 blah. I hereby submit a proof citation form, so they approve it and they show you, okay, this is where we're getting the authority to do so from, because the law still have to be abided by. Albeit judicial department of the government, aka Supreme Court, is its own department of government, but nonetheless, they work hand in hand in uniform and in harmony with the legislative department. Hence, an act had to require them to perform. Although they can govern themselves and organize themselves based on separation of power, but nonetheless, they're all a different part of the same unit called the quote government. Therefore, they're backing each other up. The legislative says, hey, here's an act that we'll pass for you to be able to do this. And then the Supreme Court held a conference, aka a meeting, that says, all right, according to the legislative language, we're approving this form to be used, aka the traffic ticket, for people to basically be sued on the spot. Again, we're known to the fact that whenever someone writes you a traffic ticket, they are suing you. And here's the proof of the truth. Here's the approval memorandum, the bodies of law attached to it, and the date they filed it. Supreme Court clerk seal. Illinois citation and complaint. Whenever you get that complaint form, do you get all these instructions? They don't give you all these instructions, but you should know them. But nonetheless, what you usually will get is some thin, flimsy yellow or pink piece of paper or white piece of paper that doesn't even fully cover the 8.5 by 11 page. This is what it would typically look like. Things like these. They give you all the options. You want to take a guilty plea, cool. You put all your information in it. This is what your typical traffic citation will look like. This, as simple as this traffic citation is, which they put, the Supreme Court put their seal on it to say, this is our thumbs up saying, yep, we approve of this. As simple as it look, this is what suits look like when it comes to traffic. Whenever they write you that traffic citation, someone is suing you. Someone is suing you when a traffic citation is written, because the form to which they're casually just tearing out, keeping a copy and then giving you a copy of it, that form is approved as part of the standardized statewide form to be used as a complaint. And this is what it will look like. In all states, it might be colored different. Some of the boxes might be different, but nonetheless, the principles are the same. They all do the same on the side of the road and the back of the road. There it is right there. It's just one example that's showing that these traffic citations, these slips, are approved as a form, complaint form, and is approved and backed by the judicial and legislative department. No one else is going to show you all these things, especially the tortfeasors. Why should they express it to you? Why should they let you know, hey, I'm suing you? This is a big deal. And you must prove us wrong. One thing people don't realize is with all these things that they're doing when they write your traffic ticket or sue you one way or the other, the more you don't show up, the more it's on their record that they can get away with doing anything to you arbitrarily without recourse. The more you show up and kick their ass, the more they know maybe we should put this man or woman in our system to not screw with him or her. Even if you don't do the quote formal injunction, and if you take other steps privately, even better. But at the end of the day, competence is something you can never run away from. Until next time, take care. Best of luck. I have a Patreon page, and I'm inviting you to come join. Are you interested in discharge? We show everything about how it's done and my own experience. Consistent posts are made explaining many things regarding said discharge. Many will seek and simply wouldn't find. Those dealing with mortgage issue or want to know more about it, we speak of it. For those dealing with basic stuff like traffic issues, we speak about the solution, and I show it from my own experiences and how I permanently prevent any such issues. Those worrying about trust, different types of trust, we go over so many things consistently. Regarding trust, we show the IRS manuals. Those who are interested in suing and making money through debt collection or other means, we go over it, we show it. I show my own settlement checks and the things that I've done as a personal experience. Those interested in banking, we show subtle details and intricacies of the things that I have learned. For those interested in other things like the IRS forms and how to put it to use, we show it, explain the details. For those interested in court-related matters and intricacies, we always show it. For those interested in the spiritual aspect of things and how it works, we show and explain it. Those with child support matters, we explain and we show everything in detail also. Great puzzle pieces that can never be found in other social media platforms, but we explain it all as it relates to many different things. For those interested in express trusts and the issue of how not qualifying for taxation, which I call dinking, how it relates to any other type of trust or any other affairs, and how you can intertwine your affairs into the different types of discharge that exist and lack of qualification for taxation. Speak about it. The truth about really recusing attorneys and the whole foreign agent registration and attorney lawyer number, we speak about it. Speak about how to really bring about juries, and some of the comment section asks good questions and greater answers are given. Speak about how to get and use tax exemptions for vehicle use and sales. You don't have to belong to some organization. You can actually get yours according to the language of the legislature within your state. Go over the details that a lot of people mentor about regarding Article 1, Article 3. What really makes a court? It's not limited to just your paperwork. Most people don't know. We go over business matters for those with actual businesses, S Corp, C Corp, LLCs, those who are business minded and those who make monies. Go over other things that a lot of people don't know, functions internationally. We speak about a lot of other spiritual related matters. Details on how to bring criminal charges, what it truly means to bring criminal charges, what a bill of particulars, how to recuse a judge, details of the parliamentary rules in court and legislature, different things about standard of evidence and burden of proof, different things that a lot of people will speak of, discovery. But did you know there are 6 types of discoveries? You know how to intertwine your LLCs and S Corps with an express trust, how to not make them taxable. Do you know when Trinity versus Pagliaro really is involved? Do you know how to use your home as a home office? And the many details involved. Go over the injunction and how to enforce the different types of injunctions that exist. The intricacies of how data brokers exist and how they steal information. Not just the credit bureaus, but many data brokers, and how you can prevent them. We go over grants, getting grants. We go over issues and solutions of CPN and how they're created. There are about 6 or 4 to 5 different parts that were created. We go over caveats where people say sue them, but they don't really know. We go over the things to do after you sue them. We go over the issues of privacy and technology. All the whole thing about perfection of security interest, UCC, and how to use it and how to monetize the birth certificate, all that. We go over the details. There are a lot of principles and doctrines people don't know about that we go over. Go over how to really do the copyright and the details involved in it. Go over how to simply do a trademark. It's far more easier than you think. All these people telling you go to a trademark office, do this, write this letter. It's not that difficult. Go over how to fill out the GSA bond box at a time, and so many more. How to get settlement checks, how to put your vehicle in a trust. I show you from my own experiences, form for form, step by step. Go over the different types of relief to be granted. The type of relief you seek invokes the type of jurisdiction that you fall under. All these people speaking about chancery, equity, and law, common law. The relief that you seek is directly tied to the type of jurisdiction. Go over the CPN, how it's created. Go over how to obtain bonds, where to do it. Go over the different types of discharge and some more. We explain each of those types of discharge. We explain how trademark and copyright is affiliated with asset protection. We go over how to prove trust. We go over the different types of fraud. We go over the importance that many people will never know. So many more. I show my own experiences in the audio calls from court cases of how I get different types of settlement checks. Go over the different types of discharge. There's so much more that it can't even completely be spoken of here regarding trust. We go over how to create it step by step, and many more things that will never be shown on YouTube or any other platforms. Go over all the principles that people don't know about. And they speak about statute of limitation. Well, fraud does have a statute of limitation, but do you know how to subvert it? As to why that phrase fraud has no statute of limitation to bring it to life, most people don't know. There's so many things that we speak about. We speak about how to garnish people's checks and people's property. There's a form that you use for that. People don't know about it. Speak about details regarding foreign trustees. Speak about spiritual related matters. And on the Instagram page, if you get to join, come on over. There's also a Facebook page where questions and answers are posted and other reminder links to certain videos are shown. Until next time, take care. Best of luck.